Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Mr. Officer. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh wa maghfiratuh wa ridwanuh. And a very good evening to all participants who come to join our program for tonight. I am Dida Amirullah from Kuliah of Engineering, will be your moderator for tonight's program. First of all, I would like to thank all three of our panelists today. Professor Dr. Samsul Rahman, Family Medicine Consultant, KOM AIUM Kuantan. Associate Professor Dr. Rafita Hadim, President of WAFIC, and Haji Muhammad Bakri, who join us tonight as the speakers to our program Drop and Talk Series 2.0 on the title LGBTQIA+, dealing with homosexuality. And not to forget, I would like to thank all of the participants today because you guys are willing to spend your time with us today. Alright, before we move on to our next agenda, I would like to introduce a little bit about our speakers here today. We have three of them on the stage. Alright, so for the first speaker is Professor Dr. Samsul bin Rahman. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Alright, so our first speaker, Professor Dr. Samsul bin Rahman. He is currently a lecturer in Kuliah of Medicine at International Islamic University Malaysia, Kuantan campus, and currently as the Deputy Campus Director, Kuantan campus. He worked under the Ministry of Health until 2005 before joining the Department of Family Medicine in IIUM. So for our second honorable speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Rafita Hani Mokhtar. Apa khabar, Doktor? Alhamdulillah, sihat. Alright, so she is a lecturer of physiology in Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at University Science Islam Malaysia. She was appointed as an expert panelist in developing modules for sexual orientation and gender identity issues by the Jabatan Kemajuan Islam Malaysia, JAKIM. She is also the Vice President of the Ikatan Pengamal Perubatan dan Kesihatan Muslim Malaysia, IMEDI. And last but not least, to our last speaker, our special guest, Encik Haji Muhammad Bakri bin Abu Bakar. Siap? Alhamdulillah. He is the chairman of Pahang Insaf Association. Persatuan Insaf Pahang has been working closely with the local transgender community, such as by providing them medical, psychological, and spiritual assistance. Alright, so I think that is all for the introduction. I guess you guys are not can't wait to listen from their opinions about our hot issues, hot topics for tonight. Alright, so without taking too much time, shall we begin? Yes! Panelists, are you ready? Alright, so let's begin our first round. So we have two rounds for the forum session. The first and the second round will have 3 questions, and each question will be 15 minutes for each speaker. Alright, so for the first question, we will go to Professor Samsul. So Professor Samsul, what are the factors that mostly influence them to be involved in this homosexuality community?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dida. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for inviting us to share our little experience dealing with LGBT community. Normally, we have one day course, or at least 2 days course to discuss about this topic. Today we have only about 15 minutes each presenter, so it's quite difficult. So to make it easier, I prepare something so that you understand much better. Is it okay? Yeah. Permission. Okay, so round 1 we discuss on risk factor. I'm not sure whether we have international students. Oh, you have, okay. Okay, so when we talk about risk factor, homosexuality actually has been removed in 1973. So this topic direct dealing with homosexuality is no more relevant because already removed from the kitab psychiatric books. I think maybe Prof. Rafita will touch a bit on this matter. And then 1980 changed to gender identity disorder. So from homosexuality to gender identity disorder. 1990, WHO stands for World Health Organization. They also removed homosexuality. You see? And then 2011, that gender dysphoria actually from IIUM content. We set up the task force to handle this matter because we are tired of treating fever. We want to treat the cause of fever. Okay, so 2011. So Kuliah medicine started. And then you see 2013. You see 2013 from gender identity disorder they changed to gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria, you see, KUNSA also part of it. They also label KUNSA as a gender dysphoria. Whereas KUNSA or intersex is a different chapter. Intersex, they are congenital defect. They are born with it. Whereas transgender, they are normal. Basically, they have nothing to do with DNA ke, hormone ke. They are normal. But because of peer pressure, they end up with LGBT issues. Okay, the rest we skip, we don't have much time. So this is intersex. This is KUNSA. And when we talk about KUNSA, they have two genitalia. Ambiguous genitalia. And that's why Islam said we can proceed with surgery. The one that dominant, you maintain, you retain. And those yang consider minor, we remove. Okay, so this one normally we pass to the surgeon to do it. And Islam said when it comes to intersex congenital adrenal hyperplasia and testicular fibrillation syndrome, this one is acceptable and can be treated. This one we need another seminar, another forum to discuss. So I just highlight it. Okay, now the issue how to identify gay. Can you identify gay? You know, it's very difficult. They may be very difficult. There is no characteristic. It's no characteristic. You only can identify them when you stay with them and you live with them. Then you know the situation. So we can identify. And this photo with their permission. Normally when I show you the photo, with their permission. Otherwise I won't. Because it will be a medical legal implication. Okay. Now can you identify transgender? Very easy, right? That's why your tudung very significant, very important. Brother, your future wife nanti, your daughter nanti, you must make sure they have tudung. Because tudung not need to cover the aurat, tudung also to differentiate artificial and real. So those without tudung, they are transgender until they have another wife. So transgender, they have two types. They have male to female and female to male. So I'm more towards male to female. Male to female, or in other words, male. Okay. Now, transgender, they also have to do. They also apply to do. And this is Nilofa of transgender worship. This is Nilofa. You see, this is transgender. When they apply makeup, they are more beautiful than you all. And when our brother give second look, third look, that means they have magic. They have what we call susu. They have susu. And normally when you X-ray, you can identify the susu. Susu is basically the needle they put behind the embedded under the skin, and you can identify. Okay, according to psychiatric, majority of them have strong desire. The word is strong desire. Strong desire to be rid of one primary and secondary sex characteristic. Strong desire for the primary and secondary sex characteristic. A strong desire to be the other gender. A strong desire to be treated as the other gender. So these all the criteria to label someone as a gender dysphoria for transgender male to female. The word is strong desire. Okay? And you see Al-Quran mentioned, Surah An-Nam, do you indeed approach men with desire? So Al-Quran already described this problem 1,400 years ago. Modern medicine just identify this. You see, mujizat Al-Quran. And the risk factor, many studies they mention that this issue remain controversial. And they said basically because of genetic DNA. Another study also genetic. A few studies say endocrine hormones. But this study, maybe Prof. Rafita can share with us, actually there is no gay gene. So DNA or genetic has nothing to do with LGBT issue. There is no relationship. There is no relationship. This is massive study homes in on genetic basis of human sexuality. So it's confirmed there is nothing to do with genetic. Only Malaysian population still claim there is relationship with genetic. Because we Malaysian, we are very slow in terms of updating our knowledge compared to Western. Western normally with DNA. They know already. They know the scientific data has nothing to do with DNA. Okay, this study done by our lecturer, our ex-lecturer, Madam Noraini. She said the cause may be parental rejection. Parents prefer baby girl, suddenly end up with baby boy. So they groom the baby as if this is baby girl. So they put on cross-dressing, okay, and then expression of transgenderism, softy, effeminate. During our time, my time, Haji Bafi time, effeminate is non-issue. But today, when you are softy, people like to label. So this is the issue. This is the issue. So labeling is dangerous. Don't label people. Because when you start labeling, you are praying for them. You are committed doa to them. So this is dangerous. Or reversal in parental role, overprotective mother. Father too busy with caring, kerja all the time. So they have no time for family. But in Malaysia, lack of religious education. So this is one of the key issues, lack of religious education. And we are going to have another general election, so you must know which party to choose. This is not campaign. This is LGBT forum. Because lack of religious education. So kalau kita fokus on academic, we focus on academic too much, so we are going to lack in terms of religious education. Okay, this study done by Prof. Rafita and JB, URA and UC. This is qualitative study, identifying underlying cause, assessing HIV risk behavior and religious approach as tool for dawah and health integration. You see, majority, almost 100% were Muslim. Housewife, quote unquote, education-wise just completed primary school. Unemployed, no formal education. Sex workers, kerja sendiri, waiter, sex workers jual jubu. Just completed primary school. And you see his age 24 years old. That's why education is very significant, very important. If you have poor education, that means you will have a lot of social issues. And their income roughly between 100 to 3,000. So this is not much. Tapi 100 ni memang very pitiable. Terengganu ini Terengganu. You must do something. Okay, this like a little bit crowded. But basically to show, to tell you, lacking in terms of perception of love and affection, lacking from both parents and relatives. So they come very poor family background. And then lacking in terms of love and affection. This one appropriate love and affection, but they have strong family history of transgender. Strong family history not because of genetic, but the maybe the sibling, the cousin, the relative. This one also lacking. This one appropriate, but one of the sister is spanking. Spanking dia macam lesbian. Okay. Or 3 or 4 relative are transgender. Nampak dia punya patterns. What we afraid now in future issue. And then the problem is with our registration department. They sometimes maybe they overlook. Maybe somebody come with proxy ke dia juga ambil foster untuk ambil adopted children ke apa ke. But this one actually they send the baby to the LGBT couple. So this is the issue. Okay, another one, this is peer pressure. This guy 28 years old doing medicine. So they're very brilliant, very excellent in study in academic, but end up doing this. So kalau kita too much on academic, so this is one of the complications. Too much. So kita produce graduate without soul. That's why soul tu very significant and very important. So this is medical assistant. Yang the previous one, the medical student. This is medical assistant. Even dia end up with surgery and then dia pass away because he couldn't accept the court decision. Dia end up with cardiogenic shock, with depression. Okay, maknanya from Islamic perspective, automatic. I don't have to tell you, you know already. Even you are much better than that because we coming from medical perspective. You all coming from Islamic perspective. But I should be the audience, not the other way. Not the other way. We should be here. So Islam says this is haram, clear cut, no doubt, no discussion, full stop. Okay, the statistic, transgender, how many in Malaysia so far? Kuala Lumpur, this is Kuala Lumpur Selangor. Selangor, okay, okay lah, we are safe lah. Kuala Lumpur, 2,000. Kuala Lumpur, 2,000. Followed by Penang, 1,900 transgender, majority. Confined in Kuala Lumpur and Penang. Selangor, okay, so far. Then Selangor, 1,600. So what have you done so far to reduce this number? Then we have Johor, Sarawak. Then faham. I am content. Okay, this is transgender. How about gay? You see gay, Kuala Lumpur again. Kuala Lumpur. Using social media, 50,000. Not using social media, 3,000. So those with smartphone, you are vulnerable. Those yang tengah Facebook kan, itu semua vulnerable. Okay, kalau you ada smartphone, kalau dia ada WeChat, dia ada WhatsApp. So this is semua dia punya apa kata medium to communicate. Followed by Selangor, gay, is it? Using social media, almost 40,000. Not using social media, 11,000. Okay, Johor, Sabah. So aplikasi sosial jadi tu kenapa? Tengok dah nak habis tu. Okay, takut kita skip je. Okay, Kuala Lumpur, you see Kuala Lumpur HIV prevalence among MSM. This data 2017. Kuala Lumpur was champion, 43%. 43% HIV prevalence. Kuala Lumpur, homosexual. Okay, this one sex and teen. Pahang is the highest prevalence of having sex by state. So Pahang highest 9.5% among their teenagers, heterosexual. So kalau Kuala Lumpur homosexual, Pahang heterosexual among their teens. So the risk factor there basically pornographic material, 35.3%. So this is the beauty of COVID. Because of COVID, everything shut down. All the prostitution centers shut down. 70% gulung tikar, all the entertainment centers shut down. Okay, and Malaysia before COVID, we were number 19. During COVID, we were number 4 to have visited Pornhub website. Can you imagine? Okay, so gay and lesbian alliance, so 10% in 2020. So our television, we have about 10% of TV on LGBT elements, but 2025 they target to reach 20%. So with 10%, you see what happened to our masyarakat, to our community. What happened when we when they reach 20%. So I think that's it. Finish already. Okay. We
Alhamdulillah, thank you Professor Samsul for your great explanation. So I think from what that we can understand, some of the factors that we can like to take from the topic is like strong desires, lack of religious teachings, as well as lacking of appropriate love. Right? So those are some of the examples of factors that leads to the involvement of this community. Please correct me, I'm wrong. All right. So, right, we move on to the second question. The second question will be addressed to Dr. Rafita. So, Dr. Rafita. All right, so for the second question, so I think most of us probably know what is LGBTQ. So that is common, and we already know about it. So this question will be slightly different, or maybe perhaps the same, but we will listen to Dr. Rafita's explanation. So, Dr. Rafita, what is the background of LGBTQIA plus issue in our country, and does this issue considered as one of the agenda of liberalism?
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers and the students associations for having this talk. And it's a good opportunity for me to meet old friends from Kuantan. They're not old, they're just old friends. And giving me a chance to face, having this discussion face to face with all of you. A topic which is very dear to me, but has also caused a lot of what you call, intense debate in the internet. I have 3 international articles written about me, disagree with my views, and despite I've tried, well, every of my articles containing facts, I've always been the target for labeling as well, and then calling me all sorts of names, and to the point of making dua that my children would end up as LGBT, simply because they disagree with my points. Okay, but I think it is part and parcel of da'wah. Sometimes I have to sit down and talk a lot with my children with regards to this issue, and I feel my children don't join our argument. And some of my children would like to, help me out in Twitter, and eventually I disallow them to do so because I don't want for them to feel the pain of being. Okay, I think the thing is that I would like to just correct a bit. When we talk about LGBTQ, we are not having any issues with I. So try not to use I, because I intersex means part of it is sex development disorder, and part of it is unsa, which is permissible by Sharia, because this is not a behavior. This is intersex, or nama-lama dia hermaphrodite, but because hermaphrodite belongs to animal kingdom, so they think that it's not appropriate to use that for human who has sex development disorder. They can't choose the abnormalities that they have. So I hope that next time omit I, okay? Because when we include I, we will attack that a religion is very what they call unfair, because we couldn't accept intersex. But you'll see many fatwa. There is fatwa about intersex. We have no problem with it. We know that it's an abnormality. So there's a way of dealing with it. Yeah? So stick with LGBTQ, which has a bit of problem in terms of religious position. Okay, now back to the question. Panjang, okay, Dr. Samsul Professor mentioned about 1972, which homosexuality was being omitted from DSM. And if you read a very detailed elaborations, it was actually a political decision rather than scientific decision. In that particular meeting, they have voted whether to maintain or omit. a decision which is heavily criticized by many psychiatrists, but because of the lobbying and the what you call unscientific way of deciding or not, um, the ones who propose that homosexuality should not be regarded as a mental issue, mental health, won. Okay, but it was documented that it is not based on any scientific ground, because many psychiatrists find that there's a lot of issues still with regards to sexual orientation. I think then the world evolved towards accepting them, and we have a problem where human rights preceded or human rights arguments started to dictate medical reasons. This is the issue why I'm into the picture. I've been seeing that the golden standard of medicine are not being maintained. I've been warning a lot of doctors, even in Malaysia, even the DG, medical practices should not go down to human rights argument. Not because I'm homophobic, not because I'm transphobic. It's the opposite reason, because we care about the health issues, that we must differentiate between human rights argument and medical reasons. I think I'll explain in the second round about that. So, what is the cause of LGBT? So the first one tadi, we have actually, more or less know the decision, which is not based on scientific on meeting. And then they started to have studies to try to prove that LGBT occurs naturally. Okay, so we have like Simon Levy. He was actually doing a study, and he suggested that the brain structure of homosexuals are anatomically different from heterosexuals. But then when other researchers look at his study in depth, they see that the homosexuals in his sample are those who died because of HIV, because of AIDS. So naturally the brain, shrink because of the virus and the effect of the illness. So it has been debunked since then. And then you have Dean Hamer, another researchers trying to prove that. He did a twin study trying to prove that homosexuality genetically passed over. Now, when a lot of researchers are trying to find reasons, the exciting thing is that geneticists disagreed with them. Geneticists, they say, don't play with the genetic, don't play with the genes, because we would like to have a disease which is not linked to genes as much as possible. And you're like, you're going to have something very rigid once you dedicated it to gene. It was the geneticists too who are not happy with the current trend, and not just LGBT, a lot of people trying to prove this is genetic, that is genetic. So things which can be changed behavior, when you put that into genetic, we are all going to be in trouble. Can you imagine that somebody who murders someone, and you say that he's genetically a murderer? Then this is actually a behavior thing. So then people start to believe that LGBT is naturally. I wrote an article in Berita Harian in 2012. I translated the debate from the scientific journals to Bahasa Malaysia, and that's how I got to meet Prof. Samsul, because he read my article. We didn't know each other's work, so he read that. And I also got a lot of emails from our youth who have sexual orientation problems, and they were asking me, are you sure it's not genetic? Are you sure I'm not born with it? And I have to tell them, no, you're not born with it. Give yourself a chance. So, trying to shape the fixed belief which is being embedded by foreign ideas. Okay? And then come Andrea Gana study, which Prof. Samsul mentioned. They do on 500K genome, trying to see whether there is any genetic influences. Now, you have to understand that when we do genetic study, you wish to get one gene as a cause. Now, that study mentioned the causes or the gene that can be identified in this group are polygens, multiple genes. In the same way, heterosexual has multiple genes. So it cancels out. It cancels out. Have you heard about breast cancer gene? Yes. You identify only one gene. Have you heard about Down syndrome? Yes. There's only one gene. That is a disease which is very closely related to genetic influences. But when you have a group of people where there are so many genes being identified, then it is no longer relevant. And that's why I had an argument with a lot of pro-LGBT who I think are not so much of science background. They get there is genes. There's so many genes. So I said, because there's so many genes, that means there is no single strong gene identified, so the whole thing are not counted. And that's why you will see in layman article, it just right there, no gay genes. Because that's how study of genes work. So I hope you can explain this to our outdated LGBT, as Prof. Samsul mentioned. Whenever they raise a point, you know, that there are genes and there are multiple genes. Dia ingat lagi banyak genes jumpa tu lagi strong. No, it's the other way around. Okay, now, even if there is a possibility that a disease or a condition is associated with genes, it doesn't mean that we can't change. Now let's talk about Down syndrome. It's a disease very closely related to gene. 46 X4. Sorry, 46 X 23. So, but you see that with motivation, with guidance, with a special program, can Down syndrome children improve? Yes. We've seen a lot of Down syndrome children who, become artists, become teacher, okay? Because of the program. That means, can you change behavior even if you are genetically linked? Yes. So behavior is actually the justice of or the adil of Allah SWT. He would not condemn a behavior if it can't be changed. So in similar way, when we talk about what you call LGBT, sexual orientation and all, it is very unlikely for Islam to condemn something which is not changeable. Okay? So lastly, I would like to quote a paper by two prominent specialists, Lawrence S. Meyer and Paul Matthew. Lawrence S. Meyer is actually an epidemiologist and biostatistician, which originally, his expertise is on psychiatrists. A psychiatrist who became epidemiologist and biostatistician. He was actually an invited professor to 9 prominent universities in US. He and Prof. Paul Matthew examined 500 journal articles to see what are the causes of homosexuality and transgender. So, examining carefully, and he found out that the theory of born that way, born that way theory. What is the song of Born That Way? Made popular by one artist. Poker Face. Lady Gaga. Yeah. So Born That Way is actually a national anthem for LGBT. Born That Way. So it comes with Born That Way theory. But Prof. Meyer said there is no truth in that theory because he found out that those who have problem with sexual orientation and gender identity have 2 to 3 times more likely to suffer abuses before. And as what we call underlying factors, as have been mentioned by Prof. Tadi, the mother wants another the opposite sex, and then there is nurturing occurring, okay? Missing father figures. So missing father figures, and why this is rampant in the Western countries ever since the high divorce rate there. More than 50% of children have missing fathers at home. Okay, so the same thing that we are starting to notice here. So these are all the factors that Prof. Matthew and Prof. Lawrence Mayer said. It is not natural. You can't say you are born this way. Okay, so these are all the factors now, and yeah, true enough that people in the West have not thought about it as being genetic anymore. And they would say, yeah, I choose being homosexual, or I choose to be transgender, I choose to be drag queen and all. Okay, so kita je kat sini masih lagi sangkut born that way lah, genetik apa semua. Okay? So I hope that tonight you are clear about this. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much, Dr. Rafita, for the wonderful insight. So again, our panelists mentioned about genetic, the factors of genetics. So next time when we are approached by a person that says the cause of LGBT was the cause of genetic, and I hope you guys will know what to do next. Alright. So okay, next our third question to Encik Muhammad Haji Bakri. So for our third panelist, this one is a little bit special. As he will answer the question in Bahasa Melayu. Alright, so I will ask the question in English first and then translate it to Bahasa Melayu so that our international student will know what's going on. Alright. So the question is, I would like to ask as someone who has experience being in this community, we would like to know your journey from the beginning until the end of your involvement in this community and what is the struggle that you have faced. Okay, jadi soalannya berbunyi begini. Jadi soalannya, sebagai seorang yang telah mempunyai pengalaman, dari translation lah, seorang yang punya pengalaman berada dalam komuniti LGBTQ. Jadi apakah apakah perjalanan dan pengalaman yang dilalui oleh Encik sepanjang dari awal sehingga ke akhir, dan apakah cabaran dan dugaan yang pernah dilalui?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sebelum saya lebih lanjut lagi, nama saya Muhammad Bakri bin Abu Bakar, dan dulu saya dipanggil dengan Kak Jun, dan saya terjebak dengan kancah lorong ni dalam umur saya belasan tahun, ya. Dan permulanya memang sukar nak saya jelaskan, sebab perasaan itu datang bukannya dibuat-buat, dia datang dengan sendirinya. Saya tak tahu daripada mana datangnya, sebab saya tertarik dengan kaum sejenis saya lah. Dan juga saya suka bermain dengan kanak-kanak perempuan. Dan saya dalam kalangan adik-beradik tu, saya seorang je, ya, saya dalam kanak beradik. Dan apalagi bila kematian ayah saya, ibu saya menanggung segala urusan dari nafkah untuk membagi didikan kepada anak-anak. Kemudian you tahu lah, dalam masa dulu pembesaran berbeza dengan sekarang, ya. Tahun 60-an dulu besar, berbeza dengan zaman sekarang yang penuh dengan yang canggih, ya, dengan telekomunikasi yang sekarang memang dekat dengan dulu memang saya rasa diri saya seorang, saya wujud dalam keadaan macam ni, ya, yang bertekan. Jadi disebabkan keluarga, saya rasa keluarga mungkin tak faham saya. Jadi saya melangkah keluar untuk mencari orang yang boleh memaham diri saya. Dan bila saya melangkah keluar, saya berjumpa dengan kadang-kadang yang seangkatan dengan saya, maksudnya yang serupa, yang makan perempuan yang apa, dan dia itulah saya dekat, duduk di lorong bersama dengan mereka, dan saya anggap mereka adalah keluarga saya. Saya tak anggap keluarga saya sebenarnya keluarga saya, sebab mereka lebih dekat, mereka lebih faham saya, siapa saya, kan. Jadi itulah bermulanya saya, hinggalah saya menjangkah ke umur 40-an lah. Dia saya dah tengok dah banyak saya pengalaman dengan kaum makna ni kehidupan member beza lah. Hidup siang jadi malam, malam jadi siang. Kami dipenuhi, saya kepada saya ni hari-hari dengan make up, dengan tu nak menjual maruah saja untuk mencari pendapatan saya. Itu pendapatan saya, sumber pendapatan saya. Jadi memang bab utama memang saya lari. Memang saya tak suka. Memang saya lari sebab saya tahu saya bersalah, saya berdosa. Dan kalau ada, dan juga zaman-zaman itu tidak ada ya ustaz-ustaz ataupun orang-orang tertentu yang cuba nak mendekati, nak menasihatkan. Tidak ada badan-badan ataupun NGO ataupun ustaz yang cuba nak mendekati, nak menyantuni kami. Yang ada pun adalah datang penguat paksa cuma nak tangkap, nak potong rambut, nak maki kami, nak denda, itu saja. Dan kami ingatkan kami rasa benci pada jawatan Islam dan juga nama Islam itu sendiri. Sebab mereka datang untuk dekat kami, untuk mereka datang semata-mata nak menghukum kami. Ya? Dan juga kami macam saya dengan masyarakat lagi dihina, ya? Mereka gajah ponan. Mereka saja suruh anak nak panggil bapa pondan. Kita dengar sakit hati lah. Jangan kau terpanggil aku anak kau besok yang itu. Jadi memang tu cabarannya. Dan kami macam saya kadang-kadang datang ke isapan dan saya nak berhenti. Tapi di mana saya mulakan kerja? Sebab saya ada tanggungan. Saya ada benda nak bayar dan saya nak makan. Dan saya pula masa tu yelah kita kan, saya pun bela anak juga, bela anak angkat kan. Sebab kita tu masa kita perempuan kan, saya nak macam nak rasa macam mana jadi seorang ibu. Saya pula nak angkat. Jadi kita saya pun nak perlu tanggung mereka juga, nak sekolah mereka. Jadi benda tu memang sukarkan hidup saya dah. Jadi walau macam apa saya teruskan juga. Tapi lama kelamaan bila anak saya dah besar semua dah, saya alhamdulillah lah, sebab anak saya tu saya kurangkan macam saya hidup bersama lelaki. Maksud banding suami lah. Sebab saya takut suami tak akan mengganggu anak saya sebab anak saya perempuan. Sebab itu saya korbankan lah, saya tak suka lelaki. Saya tak suka ada suami. Dan masa bimbang saya akan curiga. Bila saya tu bawah, mereka tinggal dalam bilik, mungkin ada apa kejadian, mungkin saya tak tahu. Ya, anak-anak kan budak sekolah lagi. Yang sebab masa saya bimbang, jadi saya korbankan pasal untuk bersama lelaki. Saya cuma guna lelaki untuk pendapatan saya, untuk kerja saya. Jadi benda tu, kalau anak saya besar, alhamdulillah lah. Sekarang saya tak kisahlah. Jadi dia dah besar, dah boleh kerja dan alhamdulillah untuk kehidupan dia. Okey, bila saya umur dah 40-an ni, saya rasa saya dah tengok macam-macam kejadian lorong ya. Kemudian kematian kawan-kawan. Dan juga ada yang kematian yang menyedihkan. Jadi saya pun rasa, dan juga yang paling yang saya dekat dia lah, nak ubah bila kematian ibu saya lah. Yang ibu saya yang lama sangat memelihara saya berbandingkan ayah saya. Sebab ayah saya meninggal awal, saya kecil lagi, dan ibu saya menanggungnya segala-galanya. Jadi saya walaupun dia menanggung saya, tapi ibu saya sangat musuh saya sebab ibu saya tak faham saya. Jadi itu macam wala macam mana bila ibu saya meninggal, saya tahu betapa hebatnya seorang ibu yang punya anak sebelum saya ni menanggung hinaan daripada saudara mara, jiran-jiran, orang-orang kampung mengatakan tentang saya, tapi ibu saya tahan juga. Ya? Jadi bila dia meninggal tu, saya tahu, ya Allah, hebatnya ibu aku menanggung hinaan masyarakat. Dia patut pekat telinga ya. Ya, sabar. Saya tahu dia nangis. Dia siapa saya ibu kan? Dia nangis. Jadi alhamdulillah saya dalam masa pun saya rasa tak ada pada umur saya 40-an, saya berkecimpung dalam lorong ini hampir 20 tahun lah. 20 lebih lah. Saya dalam belasan tahun sampai umur saya 40 lebih. Saya rasa dah bosan. Kehidupan dah bosan je dah. Dah bosan. Tak lagi pakai. Saya rasa saya nak berubah. Tapi keadaan masa tu tak menolong saya untuk saya berubah. Tidak ada orang yang datang cuba nak bagi saya jalan, cuba nak itu, cuba nak mulakan. Jadi saya hasrat saya nak berubah, saya terbekalan. Dan banyak kali saya cuba tapi bergalai. Tapi alhamdulillah dengan semangat saya kuat, saya cuba. Dan lagi dengan alhamdulillah lah, dengan solat saya cuba lakukan yang tak pernah saya buat dalam kehidupan saya sebagai dalam lorong ni. Saya mula dengan 5 waktu dan dimulakan 5 waktu satu hari, kemudian saya habiskan dalam masa 40 hari. Alhamdulillah, bila habis 40 hari tu saya terus saya tak tahu macam mana Jabatan Agama Islam ni datang menghubungi saya di rumah, guna telefon saya. Saya pelik macam mana Jabatan Agama Islam ni tahu nombor telefon saya. Dan dia nak telefon saya dan kata saya ni dari Jabatan Agama Islam datang saya nak cakap dengan Kajun. Saya nak buat program sama Kajun. Itulah program pertama saya dengan Jabatan Agama Islam, faham? Yang pertama sekali. Dan juga mula dan bukan Islam, mana-mana Jabatan Agama, orang-orang yang kata Islam tu yang kata pertama yang datang nak mengikut saya dengan cara baik. Jadi saya kata okey, saya nak buat program sama Mak Inah selama tak Kajun kompos dia dan kita buat program. Kita bermalam di satu resort kan. Okey, tapi saya minta mereka janji jangan apa-apa dengan kawan saya. Jangan you ambil tindakan. Nanti tak kalau you ambil tindakan saya yang kena. Sebab saya akan menjamin mereka selamat nanti dengan Jabatan Agama Islam. Okey, alhamdulillah program jalan dengan lancar dan memang pada mereka awal mereka tak mau. Mereka menolak, mereka takut dipotong rambut, dimaki, ditangkap. Dan juga dan sebab ni belum ada lagi Jabatan Agama yang datang yang datang bersama kami lah. Dan alhamdulillah program jalan lancar dan saya tapi bila kami nak habis kami menangis. Contohnya kawan saya yang dekat ni, bila orang yang maki hamun ustaz-ustaz, tapi bila tak nak lagi dia boleh menangis. Minta kalau boleh sambungkan lagi kan. Alhamdulillah masih ingat kan. Masa itulah saya jumpa dengan Dr. Samsul yang disebut sebagai moderator bercakap kesihatan. Dan pada itulah barulah hubung kami dengan ustaz-ustaz berpandangan. Hingga saya rasa saya nak berubah terus. Sebab saya ada pihak yang menyokong saya. Ada pihak yang terus nak membimbing saya ke jalan. Jadi tidak ada hubungan saya lepas tangan. Alhamdulillah saya potong rambut, saya buang implan saya apa semua ni. Saya akan mengaji macam ni. Tapi untuk menjadi yang sempurna tu tak mungkin. Ya, untuk menjadi sempurna macam awak nak kahwin apa tu tak mungkin. Tapi insya-Allah itu semua kerja Tuhan. Kita tak tahu kan. Saya cuma bersyukurlah dengan umur saya sekarang 60 tahun. Allah bagi jalan dan ruang untuk saya untuk berubah. Saya rasa syukur alhamdulillah. Ya, dia tidak bagi semua. Allah pilih saya menjadi tuan itu. Dan saya terima dengan redanya. Dan saya tak pernah. Dan dulu saya memang pada awal saya kata kenapa Allah jadikan aku jadi, kenapa Allah jadikan aku jadi. Tapi bila kita kenal Allah, sebenarnya Allah nak bagi kita tempat yang baik. Saya syukur kepada Allah dan syukur pada Dr. saya, Dr. Samsul, pada yang rasa bersemangat untuk saya dan kawan-kawan saya untuk mulai kehidupan yang lebih baik. InsyaAllah. Dah tentu dah. Okey. Sekarang ni lagi. Jadi sekarang ni saya dah saya pun bila dah bersama, walaupun saya berubah, saya tidak tinggal komisi makna. Saya masih mendekati mereka dan mereka panggil saya Kajun walaupun mereka berjumpa saya di masjid. Ada ketika ya, saya pula saya nak berkumpul bersama-sama dengan ayah nak pergi masjid ya, nak beramai-ramai semayang Jumaat, lepas tu ada ustaz bawa. Orang dalam masjid ramai kami pun, mereka nak bersama dengan kami ulur tangan, mereka tak terima. Macam mana perasaannya? Kita nak dia baik. Kita datang tempat suci yang katakan rumah Allah. Kita nak bercampur dengan orang-orang yang baik. Jadi, tapi kita nak bersama tangan mereka haram. Dia kata haram. Kami ini bukan haram dari siapa. Mungkin kami, bentuk kami, cara kami, gaya kami mungkin haram, tapi kami tetap lelaki kan. Jadi kadang-kadang tu masyarakat kita banyak lebih pada lebih menjudge orang tu dari segi luaran. Dia tak betul. Sebabkan itu salah satu faktor mengapa mengapa benda ni tak ada penyelesaian. Dia datang daripada masyarakat kita juga. Tak ada. Tapi pada saya kena ialah sebenarnya mereka yang Allah uji dengan ujian macam ni, mereka diuji. Dan pada sama orang yang sekeliling pun diuji. Mereka, dan cara kita, yang orang yang diuji tu, cara pendekatan ujian tu berbeza. Dengan orang yang melihat tu diuji dengan cara berbeza pula. Mereka macam mana mereka tanggungjawab mereka untuk bersama, untuk bimbing mereka. Bukan tu namanya. Bukan kita nak label mereka, bahawa ini neraka, ini apa. Tidak. Saya rasa itu sajalah yang dapat saya share untuk semua. Sebelum tu selamat hari raya lah.
Satu pengalaman yang agak mantap lah. I'll try to explain a little bit in English. Alright, so from what I can conclude, what Haji Bakti is trying to tell us that he has been involved in this community for 20 years, right? Many years, and then because at that time, during that time, many of the community, not the LGBT, but I mean the netizens, they tend to like judge him, menghukum, right? Judge him, and then he needs to find someone that can understand him. All right, so that those are the main point that he has mentioned. But look where he is now. He is the chairman of Pahang Insaf Association. Right. So I remember one of our Khalifah quoted that doesn't mean I think in English it sounds like this. Doesn't mean that you have a dark life in the beginning, you will have a darker life in the end, right? So I think that is all for the first round. All right. Before we move on to the second round of the forum session, I would like to remind all of you participants, if you guys have any questions to ask, please get ready with your questions, and you may ask the question at the end of this forum. All right. We will move on to the second round of the forum session. All right. So are you guys still awake?
Yes.
Brothers? Alright, so we move on to the second round, starting with Professor Samsul. Alright, so Professor, based on your expertise and experience, what is the most efficient way to deal with homosexuality community? Does making a regulation against them solve this issue?
Okay. I don't have much time, so I will go very fast. So basically communication. Dealing with homosexuality, your communication skill is very significant. You see, Al-Quran mentioned about communication skill, you must talk nicely, politely, professionally, don't ego, everything. Okay, what is your first impression the moment you see that photo? What's your first impression? How many of you see kissing, hugging? How many of you? Yes, be honest. How many of you? Oh, Ramai. So that's means you have the experience. Let's say this photo, if you show to the primary school children, they won't see what you see. They will see dolphin. You see, this is the mouse, this is the syrup, fin, this is the tail. You focus on the black one, not the white one. The black one, yang black one. This is the mouse, this is the fin, this is the tail. Nampak tak? This is communication skill. You must go very slow, very smooth, very polite. If you go very fast, they will not do it. So you miss the book. Those who couldn't identify to the which one, something wrong with you. Okay, I try to get that. You don't have much time. Okay, you see, this is the mulut dia. Focus on the black one. This is the mulut dia. This is cigarette dia. Ni ada ekor dia. So we have 9 dolphins.
Oh, ada.
Okay. You can try your children in future. So kalau dia identify, this is the majority of the transgender. So TG stands for transgender. They will gossip about, you see the blue color. They will insult, sworn at, You see, transgender community were the most better community were affected by the communication skills, the bad communication skills, followed by man sex man, followed by female sex woman. Tapi yang transgender champion. So our translator asked us di mana saudara Sajat, where is Sajat? Okay, now Sajat in Australia. Before that. So he asked us, he said, pada akhirnya bukan saja penting bertanya di mana Sajat, where is Sajat, but the most important, where are you? Where are you in helping Sajat? You see, where are you? Kita keep on looking at negative perspective, but where are you in terms of helping these people? So what we do in Kuantan, so we help them by giving spiritual or conversion therapy, teaching them Iqra every Thursday, guide them via street dawah every 2 months, sponsor them for Umrah and Hajj 1% per year, and we have Ibadah camp per year. So this is from Kuliah Mason perspective. Very cool, I actually can do much better than that. Because you are ulama, you are religious, you are hafiz, you are wali, we are wali. We are wali, you are wali, you are trained for dakwah, we are trained for medicine. But this what we can do for us, what we can offer for these people. So this is our street dakwah every 2 months. We are doing this with Bakri. This our student, and we do this before COVID. During COVID, we do online. Okay, these are our students. This is the transgender with the permission must do. And this is our Ibadah camp organized by Kuliah Mason. Their team, their ATS in the first Ibadah camp 20 plus. And then 2016, 2015. So normally during Ibadah camp we teach them the basic, the fundamental which they miss during their childhood. So we just refresh it, just reteach, relearn, learn. So this is the basic. So let's say if we plan for next year or this year Ibadah camp, for sure we will invite IRT students. For sure, inshallah. So kalau you volunteer, please come forward, give your name. Okay? So kita ada games, tug of war, manya versus non-manya. Win. Manya because they have plenty of energy which is unused. They always win because I don't know what's the secret. Any secret game? But the main problem is sponsorship. This is the big issue. Because this program, Ibadah camp, normally dia at least about 20k, 30k, can go up to 50k. So kalau you have big pocket, big sum, maybe you can help us. So this is the latest Ibadah camp before COVID with Tansi Rexton. So many NGO, so many university involved. And during the Ibadah camp, we will choose the group as a winner if they have good in terms of solat. So winner to based on solat. So solat actually the keyword is the solution. This is the best. But this one is the most interesting. This is the most interesting. This one you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. They will understand automatically. Okay. So we let them to handle from fasting, from pembetul, kapan kan, even sampai this level. So this is the best. So bila dia mandi kan, dia akan nampak the breast implant. You see, they will find the breast implant. They will find the genitalia now no more. The penis already removed. So this one give big impact to this community, and that's why they U-turn. And those yang U-turn, kita sponsor for Umrah and Hajj. Kita sponsor for Umrah and Hajj, and the sponsorship coming from our medical students. Now we open to engineer, IRT, account, law, so with permission, this is Haji Bakri. Oh, cantik. This is the so this was him. So this he went for sponsored by I. So back from Umrah, from Ibu Ayam selling nasi. Ayam is very significant, very important. Ibu Ayam basically is a leader, is a monitor, is a captain. So your head of department is Ibu Ayam. You itu dia punya definition. And then he went for Hajj 2019, September 2019, sponsored again by our colleagues, by our friends in their field, and from the university, even from Rafita also involved. So back from Hajj, you see the impact from Hajj. He helped his friend from a Christian to be a Muslim. Now friends doing further study Islam in Madrasah Nurul Ihsan, Kopiang. They are much better than maybe one. And this is another guy, Muhammad Shawwal Andrew. Why Shawwal? Because he was born on 1st Shawwal. That's why I put Shawwal. From Hindu, now Muslim become Muslim. This one. Now this guy in front of you here. This is Mona in 2012. And this also Mona in 2015. Now this is Mona. Brother, this is another guy. You see, those without tudung, you are maknya anti perubahan those. So those with tudung is real. So this is real. The rest all. So this maknya went for Umrah. This is sponsored by University of Umrah. And then joined as a staff in KKM. Then sponsored by our for Hajj 2021 because of COVID postponed. Okay. This is another guy. This is Ulsairi went for Umrah last year. Ulsairi is the XP. So nampak tak? Dia punya pattern, dia punya handsome je. So this is a big plus for you all. Now they start thinking, why don't I get married with someone? Okay. And not only for Malaysian, even kita have non-Malaysian. This one from Thailand, Mira. This is Mira. This is Mira in 2012. This is Mira in 2018. So Lgbtqia is a big joke. There is a solution, there is a treatment. This one another one from Thailand, Narinan Kapalain atau Ati. Real name is Syukur. This is her, this is him in 2012. So you know what? The breast implant. What is it? This is the breast implant. And this breast implant for our women who get sick and end up with breast cancer. Normally kita can remove after 7 years if they complain, if they have symptomatic breast pain or this one. But our maknya they use it for 20 years, so they are vulnerable for breast cancer. So after rehabilitation, so this is new idea. So this is new idea. This identity, this. You see the intervention. When you start doing the intervention, this is the outcome. So that's why in Islam, our job, we just convey the message. We just advise, we just tell them. The rest we leave it to him. We leave it to Allah. Because Hidayah is not belong to us. Our job just to convey it. Either you want to follow or not, then it's not our job. Our job is to convey the message. How many of us interested in doing? Okay. So this is integrative medicine. You see, modern medicine and Islamic medicine called as conversion therapy. But in Western world, they against conversion therapy. For them, conversion therapy is dangerous. You see, American Psychiatric Association said, so they said, they argue our Indonesian psychiatric, Indonesian doctor, Indonesian doctor says LGBT can be cured with proper treatment. But Americans say we respectfully ask you to reconsider your position. Can you imagine? Because the latest and best scientific research show that different sexual orientation and gender expression occur naturally, just like our Prophet said. And Germany moved to ban gay conversion therapy because for them conversion therapy is something and dangerous, something and inappropriate, something yang apa kata torture. And what is conversion therapy? Labeled here as treatment includes caution, physical and psychological forms of torture. But actually, our conversion therapy is very simple. We just advise, and this is not a promoted. They are basically volunteer. They join to volunteer. Nobody force them. Nobody push them. Okay. So this is the effect of conversion therapy from their perspective, from Western perspective. Prolonged psychological harm on LGBT person, normalization of conversion therapy affects access to healthcare. And this is, in other words, homosexuality is not a mental disease. There is no need for this is from their perspective. So kalau you ask about law, yes, we need enforcement. Today we need enforcement because they are getting increase in numbers. Even dia ada tagline from maknya tidak beranak, maknya semakin banyak. In Siberia, in Russia, beating addiction out of you. You can Google, you can check. So they use this treatment, caning for those yang addicted to sex, alcohol, or having depression. They also practice caning. So, and this is their testimony. I am the proof that this controversial treatment, controversial treatment works, and I recommend it to anyone suffering from addiction or depression. It sounds like crazy, but it's given me back my life. Without it, I seriously believe I would not be dead. So why do you start? Why do I can't start? You see now I have to stop in another 2 minutes. Because, and you see, Al-Quran mentioned already. The adulterer and the adulteress shall each be given 100 lashes. Let no pity for them detain you from carrying out this law of law. So non-Muslim follow Al-Quran, and we Muslims still in limbo. Not sure about it. We don't follow. So this is the dilemma. We hope maybe my generation we already missed the chance. Now we pass the pattern to you all. Maybe you can do something. You can start Islamic law. So this is our target. At least when Allah asks us in Padang in Masyar, what have you done? Allah will ask you either what you have done is success. No, that is a different thing. But what have you done? What have you contributed for us? That is the best. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, Allah, what a great solution to deal with this community. So what we can conclude from what Professor Samsud has talked about this. So one of the ways that we have a good communication skill, not be arrogant, and then as well as we have like some things that we need to do, especially. But I would point out one thing that he mentioned is our role as a student that we need to help as a Muslim, right? We need to help for those who suffers this in this community, right? Next, we move back to our second speaker, Dr. Rafita. Right. So, Doctor, the second question will be: from your experience, what would be the consequences of people involved in LGBTQ, especially towards health, and what is the effort of NGOs to help this community to overcome it?
The questions should be directed from Samsung because he's the family medicine specialist. Right? But my job is normally to make these technical words into layman words, and so normally I would explain in my FD or article about the complications. Now, I think in the West that the way to deal with LGBT and the illnesses is acceptance in safe sex, in condom, and medicine. We have PrEP and PEP. These are medicine to take before you do what we call anal sex. But if you see the trend, until now, there has been no signs that the approaches or their strategies work. Last year, I think there has been news about the rising of new HIV cases among gay because they now use chemsex. They what you call make a lot of the recreational drugs. To the point that to deal with this, the authority, the European Health Authority, start a conference how to take chemsex safely. So it has always been to what you call I would say that to cut corner. The golden standard of medicine is always prevention. But because of this movement, social movement, that try to push away real medical facts, we are not seeing any improvement. Now you have seen that people who, lung cancer, 98% of lung cancer patients smoke. What do? We say no to smoking. Now, the majority of new HIV cases are from male-sex women, particularly gay and bisexual and transgender. Can we say no to the act? You can't say that because you will be labeled as homophobic and transphobic. So that depart from the normal way how medicine is used to be dealt with. Prevention is cheap, easily, if we put effort towards it. And religious approaches help. But rich countries like US and Europe and Australia are asking us to follow their approaches, to prepare as many medicine as possible to, not just medicine, because you want to practice homosexuality, you will be seen by the doctors. They provide gender transition clinic. Okay. Now, these are the medical issues. Kita tak cakap pasal agama pun. But tengok medical issues, there are so many medical issues that we want to say to our youth, don't do it. Okay. Now, our own data shows that 40% of new HIV cases come from those aged 20 to 39 years old. 40% is a big number for youth. These are IPT students and also category belia. Okay? So, do you want to actually adopt the Western strategy? Now, let me educate you about the epidemiology and statistics. You will see that the lowest number of HIV cases are among the Middle East and North Africa nations, or we call it MENA. Why? Because these countries have values, have laws, okay, have Islamic position, have Catholic Christian position against LGBT as a lifestyle. But if you ask the Western countries, they always say, underreported lah, kan? But actually it's the same thing in the West. They also have cases which is underreported. So these are the facts. You can actually Google ABERT, which is a body that compile data. And you can also look under units. This is data that nobody dare to say it outright because they are afraid being labeled homophobic. Now, closer at home, you will see data from Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand. Kita compare tiga ni, sejuk-sejuk ni. Okay? Thailand have about 1.1%, 1.12% of HIV cases. Malaysia has out of 3,000 out of 32 million, kan? So that will be translated to 0.01. Singapore sama macam kita. Why? Because Singapore has law against homosexuality, 377. Malaysia ada dua. Civil law kita ada, 377. 7, syariah law kita ada. Do this law helps? They do. Sebab kita ada law lah, kita punya case rendah. So, I always debated with some of pro-LGBT, even from the health what we call fraternity. I kata, why didn't you see the value of incidences? Now, macam Thailand dengan kita tak jauh beza pun in terms of collect data. Sama je, kita sama standard. Even Singapore, kan? So, these are the medical consequences. And have you ever think about young people diagnosed with HIV positive? What would they have to do? They will have to take HAART for life, kan? They will have to be monitored every 6 months. And can you imagine, saya nak nasihat pakcik umur 60 tahun darah tinggi makan ubat tiap hari pun seksa. 20-year-old and now you have to take the pills. Not to mention the cost. Not to mention, and why is it that we still have high cases despite the very education? Safe sex, pakai kondom. Why? You are young. You tak comply. And tak ada siapa apa suruh you comply. Saya pun tak nak anak-anak muda have to comply with the lifestyle dengan ambil tu. And when I'm talking about this, people would say, oh, tak suka dah tu, benci dah tu, buat tak. Saya dapat message from Twitter. Somebody was actually nervous and kata dekat saya macam Dr. Rafita ni, saya buat sekali je homosexuality. Saya risau, CD4 count apa semua. He's living in fear. So I said to him, you just follow apa doktor kata kan, apa semua tu. Message lagi. So he said he has been living in fear. So when I want to actually convey my message to all of you, it is because I care. Saya tak nak pelajar-pelajar melakukan anal sex dan tidak bertegas dengannya, and then living your life in fear for the fear dapat tetap. Some people would give you false hope that there's nothing now, you have medicine, apa semua ni kan. You don't know your partner tu. Is he complying? Kita tak tahu viral load dia berapa, kan? So itu yang I would always berpegang kepada standard of medical care. Prevention is better than cure. Now that we have COVID-19, do you think we have lots of money to spend on all the medicine and all the follow-up? Bila follow-up tu you kena buat apa? Ambil darah, check, all that involve cost. Kan? So, kita belum cakap lagi tentang ni. Now that is for homosexuality. Now what about transgenderism? Feminization. You take hormones to make yourself beautiful. Now I'm a physiologist. Secara standardnya, jangan kacau hormon dalam badan kita. Do not interfere with our hormones which already have exist, which interact with each other beautifully. But what happened is that, of course I disagree with transgenderism because of that feminization, that you take extra medicine, you take estrogen from outside. For pancake, they will take testosterone. And I've talked to them, I've talked to people who have taken this, what are the issues. And I have once managed a transgender patient case. Waktu tu belum zaman komputer lagi, zaman fax. Gini, keluar masuk. Keep coming in the hospital because when they do sex reassignment surgery, the urinary tract is now connected to bowel tract. So feces, najis tu keluar ikut kencing. So dia sedia je, kan? So these are the effects which, Sajat may not tell you, kan? Safi Ilyas may not tell you. And these people have businesses. But majority of those transgenders are macam Cik Bakri kata, they are living belakang lorong. Can they manage healthcare, good healthcare in that position? Tak. And that's why we are trying to educate and trying to make sense to people to not take this need. Apa bila Islam larang tu, when Islam forbids, there's a reason for that. It's not just an empty. Okay, now last one is actually for we have this ideology embedded into the youth. Okay, now we have trans youth. In US and in UK, the parents are panicking because advocates for pro-LGBT are pushing aggressively for puberty blockers. for children as young as 11 years old. Okay, they have been what you call too aggressive that children were taught to lie to their parents when they wanted affirmative therapy. Gender clinic are sprouting sampai the parents over there are monitoring every second how many gender clinic is formed. This is all capitalism issues. You know, some people gain money because when they prescribe hormone and what you call advice for removal of breasts, removal of penis, there's one popular issue of what was his name? In UK, Kira Bell, okay, is a she. So initially, she wanted to be a boy, so had double mastectomy and removal of ovary. And she said that the problem is that she was young, too young, and the doctors there are too aggressive, not giving her enough time to think. So they just prescribe, okay, we should affirm your new gender, okay, and remove your mastectomy. At 21 years old now, she couldn't get what she lost. No, it's already mastectomy. And these ideologies are coming soon to Malaysia. And that's why WAFIC, as an NGO which advocate for family institution, are fighting aggressively. You know, we have seen what is happening to the West, and we still wanted to import that here. Okay? Now, the last thing I would like to say is that you have to differentiate issue of discrimination and recognition. Recognition may not solve the issue of discrimination. Now, there has been an uproar, I think it was shown in the montage study, of recognizing third gender. What are third genders? They are transgender, they are non-binary. The non-binary are the new category. You are not male or female. So they don't want to be, and now they are starting to teach us how to, what do you call? How to pronounce them correctly. Satu, this one, Demi Lovato. She declared that she's non-binary, and the article wrote about they. Demi Lovato decided they want to be me. They. The pronoun used for non-binary is they. So how are English teachers going to teach children? And everybody demands self-declared gender, self-declared pronouns, and all these what you call the things that we are have established many years ago is being abolished just because we subscribe to the ideology of entertaining each human desire. Okay? So there is issues with regards to medicine. We haven't talked about mental health issues. You've seen among countries who have already have laws supporting same-sex marriages. These countries have laws that ban conversion therapy, and still the mental health illness are high in these countries. You've given everything to them, basically everything to them. But why are the mental health issues are still prominent among homosexuals and transgender? The suicidal cases are twice higher than the normal population. Self-harm injury are higher than those who are heterosexual. Same-sex, among same-sex couple, they have depression illness more than same-sex heterosexual couples. So these are mental health issues. Still being, every country will still, it's 2022, yet every country will still monitor 4 categories for their HIV/AIDS: transgender, homosexuals, bisexuals, and female sex workers. Daripada dulu sampai sekarang. So my conclusion at this junction is to have a firm position on LGBT. Okay, for the sake of the family and the sake of for the sake of the society. as I said, if you have discrimination problem, macam tadilah Kak Jun, Haji Bakri dah cerita, ada ustaz yang penguatkuasa yang terlalu tak berkhemah, cannot go to the masjid. This issue of discrimination, we tackle the discrimination, but not by recognition. This recognition, which is always being called by pro-LGBT group, they want the Jabatan Pendaftaran Negara to actually comply to their request and they want to change sex, allow them to be in female ward, for example, and dekat US, they already enter female sports, kan? And you also see that as something which is the feminists are now waking up, so they are not happy because of the transgenders winning women competition. Okay, so there are a whole set of problems. It's not just out of religion, but even if you don't include religion in your argument, you will see that there are so many problems with regards to health, with regards to education, with regards to safety of women, with regards to law, family law especially. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much, Dr. Rafita, for the presentation. So, what I can say is from the second question that for someone who fall into the LGBTQ community, it's mainly the consequences that people will have is mainly towards health, like the HIV that has been mentioned. So, other than that also Dr. Rafita also mentioned about ability. So we hope that we will not be voted by the ability coming from the West, inshallah. Alright, so for the next and the last question in the second round is addressed to Haji Bakri. Alright, I will do the same thing as I did in the first round. Alright, so the English version would be, I would like to ask Haji Bakri, would you mind sharing your experience while attending the program of NGOs to assist you and its impact on your migration? Ini sebagai seseorang yang telah mengikuti beberapa program NGO untuk membantu Encik, dan apakah kesannya kepada Encik?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dengan soalan tadi, kesannya bila saya menghadiri program-program sama NGO ni, maksud saya NGO yang lebih pada membawa memimpin kita lah. Ada juga NGO yang bukan memimpin, mereka macam NGO yang banyak ya, yang lebih menyokong pada ini. Mereka tidak ada peran utama dalam dia punya program. Dia tak suka ada ustaz, ada apa. Dia nak program lebih kepada bercakap pasal kesihatan, kebajikan dan juga hak-hak bagai LGBT lah dalam masyarakat ya. Tapi bila kalau saya kurang menyertai program macam tu, cuma kalau ada tu je, kalau jemput saya pergilah. Saya cuma perhati je. Tapi saya lebih banyak pada program-program ke arah bimbing kita, ke arah keutamaan. Dan sebenarnya bila saya sampai berada dalam program ni, saya berjumpa ramai kawan-kawan kita yang dulu sama kat lorong. Kami duduk semeja, berada satu dewan, dan kami rasa ya Allah, rasa gembira lah. Dan juga kita boleh share, kita boleh tanya macam mana gini, dan macam mana dia boleh berubah, macam mana dia boleh dapat itu dia. Dan cara pendidikan mereka pun berbeza dengan kita. Saya berbeza dengan dia berbeza, macam mana apa sebab dia boleh berubah. Dan kadang-kadang betul boleh jadi dorongan dan semangat untuk kita tidak berpatah balik. Bukan senangnya nak you dengan sekali niat, sekali lapas you akan terus berada dalam jalan yang terus lurus tu ya. Kadang-kadang banyak dugaan. Ya. Bermain dengan perasaan dan nafsu ni terlalu banyak. You apalagi you nekat untuk berada di jalan Allah, lagi banyak bisikan yang sering bermain dengan you untuk you bawa terbalik. Juga ujian yang dulu kalau sudah dapat tiba-tiba ada. Nah, benda-benda datang. Apalagi sekarang dengan komunikasi yang kali-kali ada tangan. Semua ada. Kadang-kadang saya pun ya, benda tu memang ada. Kalau bukan hati memang kita hangus, hancur. Jadi kita kena kuat. Bila adanya NGO ini menyebabkan kita tak mungkin berpatah balik. InsyaAllah saya minta Tuhan doakan supaya Allah kekalkanlah apa yang Allah dah berikan kepada saya ni. Saya tak menyesal. Tak menyesal saya apa yang saya dah berpatah balik ni, tak menyesal. Dan saya cukup bersyukur pada Allah. Saya dengan apa yang pengalaman yang lepas-lepas tu, saya sebagai, dan juga saya tak macam ni, saya tak tak menyesal juga sebagai pengalaman hidup. Ya, dan bukan senang pengalaman itu ya untuk diberi. Hanya saya je dapat dan juga kawan-kawan saya. Memang pengalaman dulu dan sekarang diberi jalan untuk jadi kembali step by step ya, berubah. Jadi benda tu menyebabkan NGO ni ke arah Islamik ni memang dengan adil mereka tu memberikan saya tu, orang kata tu untuk kita mula kehidupan step, untuk kita berawah dengan kawan-kawan kita, untuk kita berjumpa mengajak kawan-kawan kita yang masih lagi di tahap yang lama tu, kita bawa dia, kita jumpa dengan ustaz dan kita sikit-sikit lah dan juga kita bila dalam NGO ni kita mudah diberi macam memperkasakan diri kita untuk bersama masyarakat. Dalam dulu kami dalam komuniti saja, kami tak suka bermasyarakat. Tapi bila ada NGO ni dengan ustaz-ustaz, dengan doktor-doktor, dengan orang-orang yang baik, mereka membimbing kita untuk bersama dengan masyarakat. Dan daripada itu kami boleh menunjuk dalam masyarakat yang kami ni pun boleh berubah. Dan insya-Allah mereka pun rasa terpuas hati dan mereka akan bersama dengan kami untuk menuju ke jalan Allah lah. Dan saya suka memang pesan yang terbanyak untuk saya. Dan saya rasa bersyukurlah dengan apa yang ada. Namanya tadi kawan-kawan saya yang masih banyak saya macam NGO Islam ni, macam kawan dekat Kelang tu member saya, dan juga di Kusyari Hijrah tu, semua tu member saya. Alhamdulillah kami setiap tahun macam satu Sabang akan berkumpul ya untuk 1, 2, 3 malam di satu tempat dan kami bersama berduduk, berhimpun, berkemah bersama dengan ustaz dan juga dengan orang kesihatan. Banyak ilmu yang kami ajar ya, daripada macam mana untuk ambil wuduk, mulakan yang benda yang simple-simple. Kadang-kadang mereka tak tahu langsung ya. Walaupun dah tua pun ada kala dah 60 tahun ambil wuduk tak pandai. Ya. Jadi perlunya ada bimbingan lah. Perlunya ada ustaz yang kena sabar. Ya. Kadang-kadang dengan komuniti makna ni kena sabar pada. Ya. Sabar. Sebab apa kadang-kadang tu bukannya senang ya. Ya. Walaupun nak make up, walaupun payang tapi tetap belum masih ada. Tak ada lah. Kita sabarlah. Kita tak boleh benda ni tak boleh nak tegas terus. Apalagi yang baru-baru datang ya, macam mereka selalu buat program ni, mereka tahu ni orang baru. Ini kena orang baru tu kena ada tolak ansur lah. Supaya mereka tidak belajar untuk nak maju ke apa ke. Jadi benda ni kata banyaklah peranan NGO yang saya hadiri untuk memperkasakan saya jadi seorang Islam yang baik, insya-Allah dengan ilmu yang ada, dengan umur yang Allah berikan kepada saya ni, dengan terus berbakti lah untuk mengajak kawan-kawan saya untuk membuka pada kawan-kawan saya yang lama ni mereka banyak pada menyokong pada LGBT, tapi tidak semua yang mereka menyokong. Ada kalangan mereka pun dalam sekejap mereka masih kontak saya untuk bersama dengan saya. Alhamdulillah, saya rasa gembira lah. Saya rasa bersyukur. Terima kasih.
So for international student, what he has mentioned from his previous speech is that it is not easy for him to improve himself because there is always something that will drag him down. You know, all of this bisikan. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. And despite having all of those challenges, in the end, as we all know what he has been through, And in the end, he is happy for who he is now. He didn't regret for what he is because he knows that it's a learning process, right? So I think that is all for the forum session. Now we will move on to the Q&A session. Alright, so there is a microphone given there for the sisters if you have any question, but for the brothers you can just stand up and use your voice. Alright, so I think we can proceed with the Q&A session, but since we are a bit running behind schedule, but maybe we can have like 1 or 2 or 3 questions depending on the committees, alright? So, please. Are there any questions from the participants?
You have no question, I will ask you. Why Islam forbid anal sex, not only man to man, even husband to wife? Why Islam forbid anal sex, not only man to man, even husband to wife? Yeah. That is first question. Second question. Let's say, sister, you are going to get married with someone with HIV. Are you going to proceed or not?
No.
No. You will read this there before you are married. What is your homework?
Are there any questions? Brothers? Anyone? Someone is raising their hands. I think she has a question. Yeah, please. You can use the microphone.
Sister, where are you from? Yemen.
Actually, I have a friend. She's 18 years old and in another country. And she shocked me one day by saying that she's lesbian. And now she's saying that she's bisexual. So, from my place as a friend, I'm older than her. I don't know how to help her. And actually, you said some steps to help, but I felt as a person when I'm a friend or a sister, it's way complicated, especially when they discuss from a mental issues side, that they are being depressed or feeling abused, and they are just hiding themselves. So how can I help as a sister or a friend? Guide them in a way without making them feeling they are being judged and feeling that they will be rejected from everyone else. Because the moment I try to advise, I feel that she returns to the same people that will drag her in the same hole again. I think this is my question.
Very important question, because this is universal problem. This is not happen only in your country. Many other countries. Sister, the solution for your problem is not one day solution. It's a long process. This is tip of the iceberg. But below the sea level is your perseverance, your patience, your commitment, your dedication, your discipline, your attitude, your akhlak. If you want to change somebody, you need to change yourself first. You see, our target, we always want to change the gay, transgender, we forget our. You got the principle. Why don't you go to our Masjid Sultan Ahmad Shah here? This masjid can accommodate how many you are? Let's say 10,000. But our Maghrib prayer just now, I don't think we got enough. Maybe less than 100. And we have such a big mosque, but half full, even quarter, even less than. So you see the difference? And then we want to advise somebody who is LGBT. You see the point? That means we start with ourselves. Understand? Then we show our akhlak. We are not judgmental. We try to develop right. And we don't want to see the effect. Effect is bonus. But our job just to convey the message as I told you before. Effect we leave it to him. That's why your tahajjud is important. Your doa is important. Your connection with Prophet Muhammad SAW is much important. Because this is very difficult, very complex. And that's why our Prophet Muhammad said after Perang Badar, after Badar war, we just finished this war, but we have another war. So sahabat very surprised. Which is the most difficult? Which is the one that you mentioned from Prophet? Then our Prophet said, the nafs, war against nafs is much more difficult compared to war physically. So that is the answer for your question. I think maybe Bro Rafita can answer much better. And our Haji.
Okay. Wafiq has a sub-portion, we have a sub-group called Muhajirah Wafiq, and we dealt with our sisters who have lesbianism issues. I've actually did a study with a few of my friends with regards to how one actually got into this lesbianism, and we did it in a very non-judgmental way. Normally, I never ask them, why are you a lesbian? We actually ask them to tell their childhood story, okay, their parents' education, and friends. And all of these, just chit-chatting, we found that there's a common theme. What I found among lesbians in Malaysia, I'm not sure about me, but I suspect that the cause may be more or less similar. What trigger ladies to adopt for lesbianism is majority from family again. They have abusive father, they have a submissive mother. So when they see that the father is abusing the mother, hitting the mother, they have a relationship issue. And these sisters who are into lesbianism were saying to me that there is no fun in being woman, because you got someone who are actually, you got the man would abuse another woman, which is my mother, okay? And they are angry towards their mother too. So what they do is that most of them, what they call adopt a guy attitude. They like the video game, which is very empowering them. They become the guy in that video game, which kill all the enemies. So they feel that they are manly, okay, and they have power. And you will see that most of them also become the protective partner of another women, the one who are very soft. So again, this come from family background lah. But what I would propose to you is that continue to be her friend and continue to just tell the position of our religion about musahaqah, which is lesbianism. And being lesbianism is not without mental or physical health issues, especially if a couple of lesbians are using sex toys. Okay, they have issues of health. In a very casual way, you may start with a question, can? So what do we do? What do you do? Like you're very curious, can? But then what they call seeds of doubt. Are you sure you want to do that? But don't you think that this would have? Don't you think that you want a family? One day, and what do you call? Don't you think that this is hurting both of you? Don't you think there's a better way of dealing with this, right? So being a friend, as Dr. Tamsu said, that It's not a 1 week or 1 month or 1 year solution. But keep on, And if you compare lesbianism and gay, lesbian community revert back to the normal sexual rotation is much higher than the gay. Yeah, a good prognosis, I think because of this nurturing mother, and perhaps perhaps when you go back and then ask, go out, bring her to see the other side of what you call friends, with a normal relationship with children and all, that would probably come. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you very much for those for indicating them, but thank you for asking the question and thank you for the panelists for answering her question. All right. So I hope you guys will take note what our professor's question, what did our professors has questioned us. May not be of your homework, it might work as well.
The answer is very simple. NS, regardless of gender, is lined by columnar epithelium. Columnar epithelium is easily torn and easily broken. Very sensitive. Even with constipation, you end up with hemorrhoid. Was it? That's because
I
of
think you need to explain what is epithelium. Epithelium is cell lining, the cell lining of dubo.
Just continue, just continue.
Yes, I say, my job is to change technical words from Prof. Samsul into a layman words. I've been doing that. I always read this article and then I would change layman words. Now, where do hemorrhoids or buasi occur? Buasi. Bukan. Have you seen hemorrhoids bladder pack? Why? Because hemorrhoids, buasi, is actually a problem of blood accumulated in the anus, dubo. Why? There are so many blood vessels there. Okay, so first our anus ataupun dubo are lined by a very thin epithelium or cell lining called columna. So when you have anal sex, the hard penis thrusted into your anus, it will easily injure. It causes injury. It tears the epithelium and then the blood vessels, so many blood vessels there. Now, as compared to your vagina, which is the right place for penis to enter, it has a squamous epithelium and multiple layers. Okay? In normal relationship between husband and wife, you don't have that unless a woman is being raped. That's you may get injury. But even for gay relationship, suka dengan suka pun, lelaki dengan lelaki kan. You can imagine. I don't think they are very soft doing it. It's injured. It can cause injury very easily. Okay? And I suspect, although many, we are still following the issue of monkeypox. You heard about monkeypox? Epidemiology, statistically, it started from gay community. They have a very big gay festival. And when they trace cases, there's a few cases from Belgium, a few cases in UK. It triggered some what you call panicking because monkeypox is normally occurs in Africa. Suddenly, Europe are seeing it. It's a very macam what you call diseases associated with lower income group in in Africa. Suddenly, they see that it is happening in. So, my assumptions is the same thing because you're doing sex in an area which is vulnerable for injury, and that's why Islam doesn't allow even within legal husband and wife, because that's not the place for penis to enter.
Alright, thank you very much to our panelists, Professor Samsul, Dr. Bilang, as well as Rafita. So I think that is all for the Q&A session. Alright, so actually I've not seen biology for 3 years. But it's good. It's a good insight Alright, so to end our forum session, I will say again, thank you, Dr. Rafita, thank you, Professor Samsul, and thank you, Muhammad Bakri, for spending your time with us, sharing your tips, knowledge, and experience with us. So we hope that we will learn something new, and there are still many things that we need to learn. And may Allah protect us in our lives, inshallah. Thanks again to the panelists. We wish you all the best. Also, not to forget all of the participants who are willing to join our programs tonight, although it's late. For today, from the beginning until the end, thank you to all of you and hope to see you again next time, inshallah. Stay safe, stay sane, take care of yourself. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Before the MC closes, I just want to say one thing. This session, but we shouldn't do it about 2 or 4 hours. We couldn't cover everything. So this is our suggestion. Actually, the character needs 2 hours, my slot 2 hours. Bakri another 2 hours. And then we need another forum. You must call lesbian representative, gay representative, bisexual representative, transgender. This one just tip of the iceberg. This one just to highlight, just overview. But this another course, another symposium, another discussion, and you must invite country rector, because this project dari Dysphoria actually is a flagship under Kuliah Homosexuality, and we won almost 4 consecutive years for Takri. The best communication engagement, the community engagement, the best research, the best, so many best, I can't remember. So my suggestion, we give you sponsorship for next program. So before we receive your token, we keep the token first. Better facility so that we can have better understanding on this. Because there are so many students, so many, maybe our targeted population, especially those that are Lgbt, maybe they miss that. And this type of discussion, they miss this opportunity. Because today you have the election, so they clash. So this is my suggestion. I hope our MC will agree. Thank you very much.
Inshallah, Alhamdulillah, thank you to our panelists. Inshallah, we will take the suggestion to our heart and be better for the next session. So, thank you again to our panelists for such a fruitful session just now. I'm sure all of us have learned a lot from it, as it was a very informative and insightful discussion. So, for the next session, before we start, I will invite our guests to leave the stage to their seats.